Throughout history, guns have been considered a symbol of rugged individualism. Whether our interest in guns is pleasure or work, we've learned to respect and appreciate fine craftsmanship in the weapons and the leather that surrounds them. Howdy, my name is Dusty Johnson. Welcome to the Pleasant Valley Saddle Shop. In the course of my work with leather, I'm called on to make custom holsters and knife sheaths. From the hundreds of styles that are available, I've chosen a few of the more popular ones to teach in this video. Come on over to the workbench, let's get started. Always practice gun safety. Before you begin making any holster pattern or handling your gun, check it to be sure it's empty. Gun safety is the most important part of holster making. This first holster will be a Cheyenne-style old-time holster, also known as a Mexican loop holster. Trace the corresponding pattern pieces from the attached pattern pack on plain white paper, or if you prefer, make your own pattern. Center your gun on the fold and roll the gun to the right. Make sure the gun does not shift position from the fold. Trace 3/4 inch away from the gun. The holsters in this video will all be right-hand draw. If you're left-handed, all you need to do is turn the traced pattern pieces over and cut the back side of the pattern. Cut along the traced line. Refold the paper and cut the remaining side by following the shape you just created. Mark the back flap approximately 3/4 inch from the holster in a shape that's pleasing to you. Cut out the entire pattern. Now with this pattern, it's open, and we'll complete the pattern by deciding where to put the straps for the open loop. In this case, I would like to make these straps come fairly high. That'll be one strap, and the second strap will be fairly low. We've marked the ends of the strap, and this tells us where to cut our lines so that we have the loop strap in the back. Be sure to transfer all the pattern markings to your leather using a pencil. Draw around the pattern lightly. You don't want any markings to show in your final product. Use 9-ounce leather for a high-quality holster. Mark the holes where the loop straps will be cut later. After tracing the pattern on the leather, use any sharp knife like a box knife. I'm using a professional head knife here. Whatever tool you use, be sure to keep your hand behind the knife blade. Punch holes at the ends of the loop straps where you marked them earlier. Draw a pair of lines between each hole and cut carefully to create a 1/8 inch slot. Cut from each end to the center to avoid overcutting. When cutting is completed, use a beveling tool on all edges. Don't forget the loop slots. Now that this piece of 8-9 ounce leather has been cut out and edged, this is the point where we have to put our ornaments on it, our decoration. Some people will leave them plain, others will want to stamp just an edge pattern. Some of you who are more skilled in carving will want to do floral carving on it. The leather has to be wet to be carved or stamped. So we wet it down thoroughly and we'll wait for it to dry back to an almost natural color again before we begin stamping. Now that the stamping is finished, lightly wet the edges with a damp sponge and use a piece of rough fabric to burnish them smooth by rubbing the leather repeatedly in the same direction. Using a stitch groover, cut a guide line around the holster edge. Wear latex gloves when applying dye and use small applicators. This one is made from scrap sheepskin. Use a back and forth motion to dye the front side of your leather. Be sure it's dried after carving. Repeat the process with an up and down motion to remove any streaks. When you dye the back of the leather, only one coat is necessary because the rough surface absorbs the dye more quickly. When the dye has completely dried, apply 2 liberal coats of pure neatsfoot oil. I use a flexible plastic bottle and a sheepskin scrap to avoid making a mess. Use a number 5 overstitch wheel to mark the spacing in the stitch groove. Use a good grade of contact cement on both edges. Fold over and align the edges. Hand sewing is done by threading a harness needle onto both ends of a waxed cord. Pierce the cord and pull on itself, locking in place. Now twist tight. Insert the awl tip in the holes marked by the stitch wheel and begin the saddle stitch. You can also use a high-speed rotary grinder. Use a drill bit the same size as the sewing needle. At the end, backstitch 3 or 4 stitches to secure the stitch. Trim excess by rocking your cord against the knife. Use a sanding sponge to level the sewn edge. I'll bevel the edges and finish by burnishing the edge with a coarse cloth. Then dye the edge. All right, now that our edge dye is dried, we're ready to shape our holster to fit our pistol. We'll need a bucket of water to soak this leather in, and we'll want to be sure to check our pistol to be sure that it's still unloaded. Safety first. Put the holster briefly into the water. It doesn't take much, just a little bit, but we'll soak the entire holster. Let the water drip off of the holster. Open it, shape it with your hands. See that everything is wet inside. And now let's just bend the holster into the loops. Don't worry about distorting it too much at this point. We're going to shape the holster again in a moment. Get it bent into the loops and up to the halfway point at the top. Now once again, open it with your fingers. This time let's put our pistol inside the holster itself. Don't use plastic to protect your gun from moisture. It distorts the final fit of the holster. With the holster dry and firm, use a soft cloth to buff it to a high shine. This will take a little bit of time, but it will buff up to a high shine. When it's all finished, your pistol will fit into it nicely. You can hang it on your new belt. Congratulations, you've just made your first holster, a Cheyenne-style old-time holster. The old-time knife sheath fits very well with the Cheyenne holster I've just completed. Use the pattern provided with this video, or make your own by centering the knife along the paper fold and following the same steps I used to make the holster. Prepare the plug by skiving the end. Apply cement to all surfaces to be glued. Stitch, trim, and smooth the edges with sandpaper sponge. Burnish and dye the edge. Punch a hole and set a rivet to reinforce the top of the sheath.
Now that you've set the rivet, we're going to wet this the same as we did for the Cheyenne holster. There, now you have a holster and a knife sheath to match. Let's make a belt to go along with these.
Use 9-ounce leather for the old-time belt. Make it 4 inches larger than your waist size. Bevel and burnish all edges. Do the same to the billet and buckle. You may stitch or rivet the buckle to the buckle end before stitching it onto the belt. Measure the size of the bullet you'll use. A second measurement of half the width of the bullet will be the step between the bullet loops. Scribe these measurements onto the belt. Use a 3/4 inch bag punch to cut the slots into the belt. Now the belt is dyed and oiled. Secure one end of a 4-ounce, 3/4 inch wide dyed loop strap to the back side of the belt by stitching it in place. Thread the strap through the slots using your bullets as a guide for loop size, pulling the strap tight enough to hold the bullet securely in place. Stitch the other end of the belt as before.
Now just thread the belt into the holster and the knife sheath, and there you have your old-time Cheyenne style rig. Now we're going to make a frontier style holster. This will be done with another single action 45. This holster will work for any single action frontier style gun. Make your pattern the same as we have in the past by folding a piece of paper in half, tracing around your gun, getting the shape you want. I'm going to show you 3 different styles of the back tab for your belt. In this particular case, I have the back tab tilted forward. That will be folded down and sewn across the back. With that forward tilt that it has, that'll give us a cross draw holster. It'll hang on this angle. The gun will be pulled out cross draw fashion quite comfortably. To do it with a forward tilt, we use the same pattern, and we have the back tab tilted the other direction so that it comes around and stitches near the front. This adds a forward tilt to it. Then it will hang on the right-hand side, giving a slight forward tilt to the holster so that, again, you can pull the gun out quite easily. What I'm going to do in this demonstration is the same frontier holster, but done with a straight tilt. This tab will be straight down and stitched in the middle. This one we can hang any place on the belt, right or left, and it will hang straight. Let's Just take this pattern and trace it on the leather and make the holster.
I have folded the belt loop back and stitched it to the back side of the holster. I've stamped and finished the holster as we have done previously. Use a rapid rivet to reinforce the trigger guard area of the holster. Insert the safety strap and rivet it into place. Determine the location for the snap by inserting the gun and choosing a place that will not rub on the metal. Remove the gun and punch a hole using a leather plug. Insert a hard surface into the open holster to provide a support for setting the snap. Insert the gun and pull the safety strap tightly over the snap base. Mark the snap location, trim the excess strap, and set the top half of the snap. Because this holster will have an oil finish, I am wet forming the leather before the final finish is applied. After the holster has dried, oil and buff the surface to a soft shine. Automatic and double action holsters are made by following the steps I've already outlined. The dyed back loop is sewn to the carved and dyed holster here. The plug is prepared and glued in place with contact cement. Be sure to coat all surfaces to be glued and allow the contact cement to dry until it feels tacky before pressing pieces together. Stitch the plug into the holster by hand or with a machine.
I'm going to use this machine now instead of hand stitching. It's powered by a lever. There is no motor, it's all hand powered. The stitch is adjusted for length with this knob. I've currently got it set at 6 stitches per inch. Bring the needle down into the stitch groove, holding the cord tightly on the first stitch. pull it in and make the stitch. I make 3 stitches, pick it up and move the needle back. If we're doing a back tack, and set the needle exactly in the holes that I had started on. Now I can continue stitching the entire holster. At the end, again, we'll back tack by lifting the foot and setting the needle exactly in the previous hole. Lift the foot again. Set it in the previous hole and set. Do this 4 times and you'll have a perfect back tack.
The edges have been burnished and dyed, the safety strap completed. The holster has been wet formed, dried, and buffed to a shine. Use this process for double action holsters too.
All right, this one is more of a military or police style holster. It's called a thumb snap. I've already put the plug in the back. I've sewn the back loop down. It will be tilted forward slightly because of the angle here. This tab comes over with a snap, protecting the hammer spur. There's a 1-inch slot cut here, wherein we will put this strap. This strap will be reinforced with a small piece of galvanized steel, which will glue into place here.
Fold, glue, and punch through the leather and secure the top hole with a rapid rivet. Set a snap in the lower hole. Thread the tab through the slots, adjust the length, and clip the corners to add a professional touch.
Well, now we've made a knife sheath and a number of holsters. Let's make some more knife sheaths. This one will be a standard pouch style sheath. I'm making it to fit this hunting knife. I've already made my pattern. You'll find this one in the pattern pack. And I've made this top piece long enough that it can fold down and become our belt loop. Let's trace this onto the leather and I'll show you how we do it.
With the leather stamped and edged, I'll skive the end of the belt loop, glue it down, and sew it securely. glue in the plug. Groove, stitch, and rivet the upper corner to protect the stitches. Sand, burnish, and finish all edges. Place a piece of scrap leather in the belt loop and punch a hole for a rapid rivet. Do not fasten the snap loop to the outside where the blade will cut it. Always fasten it behind the belt loop. The pouch sheath is the most common style used for hunting knives.
The next sheath we'll make will be an open case sheath. I'm going to use the large 4-inch bladed buck knife. Drain the water off, and then we'll put this piece of 6/7 ounce leather in a plastic sack. This is called casing the leather. It will allow the water to soak thoroughly throughout the fibers of the leather and let the leather become very clay-like in texture. This will have to be set aside for at least an hour to an hour and a half before we can work with it.
Using a block of wood as your base, wet form the cased leather around the knife and nail the shape in place with coated panel nails. Be careful not to mark the wet leather with your fingernails. Remove the knife and allow the leather to dry overnight. Be sure to wipe your knife dry with a soft cloth to avoid rust. After this leather has completely dried, draw a line 1/4 inch from the outline created with the rubbing and trim the excess. Use your paper pattern to determine the position of the belt loop. Now burnish the edges, fold, glue, and sew the belt loop in place. Glue the front to the back using traced lines as your guide. I'm going to use the Tippmann Boss stitcher again. Normally the double toe foot is used, but to get very close to the case, I will use the right toe foot. After stitching, trim away the excess. Sand and burnish the edge and buff to a fine finish.
Now that we've smoothed and slicked the edges, we've applied oil and we've buffed it to a high sheen, you can see the finished case. We've sewn our belt loop on the back. We'll accept up to a 2-inch belt, and the knife is quite secure because of the form fit. I did make an alternative to this sheath. This alternative has a flap top. It's made exactly the same, fits the knife in the same manner. The difference is the back, where we folded it back and sewed it down. We let the back come up, put a snap in it so it'll snap shut, and on the reverse we've sewn on a belt loop to fit whichever size belt we decide to use. Well, now that you've made a couple of holsters and a couple of knife sheaths, let's make a Buscadero belt. There's a good pattern for this in the pattern pack. To get the proper size, use your waist measurement and add 4 inches to it. This one, as you can see, I've already carved and background dyed it so that it's ready for us to work on. I've sewn on the belt and billet just as I've shown you how to do with the old-time style. The first thing to do is to measure out our bullet loops and secure our bullet loops to the open area on the top of the belt. Remember to find the width of your bullet loop by measuring with your dividers across the bullet. In this case, it's a .45 caliber bullet, and it will measure out at just about a half of an inch. To find the dimension on the strap to mark, hold your bullet down tightly. You might even use a straight edge. Pull it very tight over the bullet, and with your thumbnail, mark it on the side. Measuring that will give us 1 1/8 inches for our dimension.
Mark intervals on the belt. Use a 4-ounce leather for the loops. Mark the spacing on the loop strap. Align the scribe marks on the belt and bullet loop strap. Hand stitch loops by using this technique. I'm using a right toe foot on the boss, following the same basic stitch pattern.
Well, now I have 22 bullet loops sewn in place. I've also pre-dyed the liner. The liner is made out of 5 6-ounce leather. I need to glue these two together with our contact adhesive, and I'll mark it so that I know where it belongs.
When gluing the belt to the liner, be sure to use extra glue around the bullet loop area. Sew the liner and belt together. Once again, I'm using a right toe foot so I can stitch close to the bullet loops without a problem. Remember to stitch around the loop slot. Open the loop slot by punching a hole at each end and cutting the liner with a knife. Trim, bevel, burnish, and dye the edges of the belt.
Now that the belt is completely finished, we're going to make the Buscadero holster. The pattern that's included with the pattern pack with this video will take care of any Frontier style single action pistol, 4 3/4 or 5.5 inch barrel. If you decide to make it for a 7.5 inch barrel, lengthen the pattern by 2 inches at the bottom. I've already carved, background dyed, and top dyed this holster. I've put the liner on, I've edged it and slicked the edges. The next step is to make a plug and put this plug in as we have done with the other holsters.
Due to the double thickness, it should be clamped approximately 15 minutes. Sew this plug, then sand, edge, and finish with edge dye and insert the hammer thong. Submerge the entire holster in water to form it. Wet form the leather slightly, rounding the shape to allow the revolver to slide in and out easily, then set aside to dry thoroughly. Prepare the tie-down strap by using 5-ounce leather. Rivet a 3/4 inch buckle and keeper to one end. Insert the strap through the slots on the back of the holster, adjust to the proper length, and punch a hole to buckle it.
I've just shown you how to make a variety of holsters and knife sheaths using professional techniques. Don't be afraid to use your own imagination. Be creative and have fun.
Related items by Dusty Johnson. Saddle making. A video, a complete guide to saddle making and repair presented in an easy-to-view style. Each step is shown clearly and explained thoroughly. Professional techniques are presented on video for the first time. $39.95 plus $3 shipping and handling. A book, fully illustrated with over 130 photos and drawings. This book is an indispensable guide when making or repairing saddles. It's also a companion to the video. Lists of tools, materials, and related publications are included. $16.95 plus $3 shipping and handling. Patterns. Full-size patterns to build the saddle illustrated in the above book and video. Can be used for any size or style of Western saddle. Complete with layout suggestions to make optimum use of a cowhide. $10.95 plus $3 shipping and handling. Saddle Materials Kit. Complete materials kit for making a top-grade saddle. Includes number 1 grade leather, rawhide tree, natural sheepskin, stirrups, all buckles, rivets, nails, and plates necessary. Contact adhesive and oil not included. $625 plus $20 shipping and handling. Shaps. The video, the details of creating batwing and shotgun shaps and buckaroo-style chinks are clearly demonstrated. Lists of tools and materials are supplied along with full-size patterns all in one convenient package. $19.95 plus $3 shipping and handling. Holsters. A video, complete lessons in the making of different style holsters, holster belts, and knife sheaths. Pattern making is explained and every detail of construction is clearly shown. Professional techniques are stressed. Packaged complete with full-size patterns for each holster and knife sheath illustrated. $29.95 plus $3 shipping and handling. Available from your local leather supply store or from Saddleman Press, Post Office Box 909, Loveland, Colorado 80539. Telephone 800-571-0021.